Hello and welcome back to Here We Tow. Today I'm at Mr Moo's Touring Park on the Yorkshire coast, and this is the last time we are going to be out with our Sportivo. Those of you that watch the channel will remember 6 months ago at the end of March, Jules and I announced that for 2025 we were going to be partnering with Coachman and testing out the Sportivo. Well, unfortunately Coachman have decided that Jules and I have had way too much fun in 6 months and they want their motorhome back. But it's not all bad news, because they have asked if we will test out another one of their Coachman motorhomes, and that will be coming in another video very soon. So stay tuned to see what we'll be testing next. But in the meantime, the Sportivo. Now, when Jules and I collected this, I had a couple of questions. The first question I had was Mercedes versus Fiat. Now, I've only ever driven Fiat-based motorhomes. First time with a Mercedes. So what did Jules and I think of it? Well, we've driven a lot of miles all around the UK. We went through Germany and Denmark, we did Sweden, so we really have tested it. I would say the Mercedes is a next level altogether to Fiat. If you're thinking about buying a motorhome and you're not sure which to go for, if you can afford Mercedes, buy Mercedes. The drive is more like a car than a van. It's a beautifully smooth engine and automatic transmission that we had on this one than the 170 horsepower. It's a completely different experience. You've also got the Mercedes Me app. This one's got all the features on it as well, the safety features. So in terms of the comparison, definitely Mercedes. It's another vehicle altogether. And I also think the Coachman motorhomes, because they don't have the rattle that I've been used to before, it's not been like driving a motorhome at all. So in very brief summary, Mercedes or Fiat, if you can afford Mercedes, yeah, it's not an option for me, it'd be Mercedes. The other thing I wanted to know is, on paper, this motorhome is sold as 3.5 tonnes. Now it's 7.44 metres long, so it's a fairly good sized motorhome, and as I say, on that Mercedes with Alco chassis. I personally was a little bit doubtful as to whether this was a usable 3.5 tonne motorhome or whether they'd just sold it as that, so people who only had B category on the licence could buy one. We went to a weighbridge with all our stuff in, apart from our e-bikes, and there's a video which I'll put a link to in the description where we proved that yes, this is a usable 3.5 tonne motorhome. That's how Jules and I have used it, and we have been under that 3.5 tonnes. I would say though, if you are wanting to add onto this air conditioning, which we haven't got, and self-levelling, you may want to consider up-rating the weight, and you can take this to 3,900 kilos without any adaptions. It's a paperwork exercise, but otherwise, yeah, it is a 3.5 tonne. The other thing I wanted to know was, how would we get on with the habitation door here on the near side? Again, we've only had European motorhomes with the habitation door on the off side. I have got used to it. I must say, when I arrive on site, I've still got to think about when I reverse onto the pitch, because before we always just drove nose in over on this side, and now there's a little bit of thought more for me, only because for years I've been used to having the door on the off side. So we have got used to it. I think I do still prefer the door on the off side, or the wrong side as some people like to call it. But yes, we have got used to that. What I'm going to do is talk about what I've really liked, and then I'm going to hand over to Jules. He's going to tell us what he's really liked, and then I'll tell you what has gone wrong. So what have I liked? I've liked the Mercedes, as I've already said. I've liked the beds. The mattresses with the spring and the memory foam have been incredibly, incredibly comfy. I've liked the layout. I've liked the bench seat so I can sit forward and look out. I've liked the insulation on this motorhome. When we picked it up, it was colder weather. We had the Alder on, the Alder heating, the underfloor heating. Oh, it was phenomenal. So much better than Truma air blown, I've got to be honest. And then in summer, although we didn't have the aircon, and you'll know the summer of 2025 has been pretty hot, because of the way this motorhome is insulated, we didn't overheat in here. Even when we went to Germany in August, with opening the vents, it was manageable. So I do like that this is properly an all year round motorhome. So in all, I really have struggled to find faults with the Sportivo. It is a 2-berth motorhome. There are some changes for 2026. The bench seat will now be running across the side wall, so instead of it being across the motorhome, it's going to be longitudinal instead of transverse. Although I am told that if you really wanted still this layout, you can actually order that through Coachman. They may well be able to still do that for you. But as motorhomes go, price £114,000 I believe now, and that includes with the wind out awning as well. Yeah, I still don't think you're going to find much of a motorhome on Mercedes that's going to give you all the equipment and compete with it, and that includes Wi-Fi and an aerial, like I say, the awning and the Alder. I've been very impressed. Very impressed indeed. It's a beautiful motorhome to drive. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So, and I feel safe. One thing I felt in this when I've been driving it is I felt safe in it. It's like a little mini tank. We've been out in some extreme weathers. Jules and I, we picked it up, and then when we went to Sweden, we had the most horrendous rain, hail and gale force winds I've ever been in. And we felt really safe in it as well, which I think is important. So let's hand over to Jules and find out what he's liked.
So, and over to me. Well, what a novelty. You get to see me on the camera for the first time probably this year, other than in the mirror or behind the scenes where we've done some filming. So totally unscripted. This is just absolutely what we've found for the Sportivo. Some people say you've been extremely lucky to have this for this length of time and not had to pay for it, and I would totally agree with you, and I would say that is why this is such a fantastic opportunity that we can actually give a free, informative information about what we've found, what we've liked, what we've disliked. So yeah, so here goes, what we've liked. The video is only going to be of a certain length, so I've got to say, no spoilers here. I've loved nearly everything about the Sportivo. It's absolutely fulfilled everything that I'd want out of a motorhome, and I've got to be quite honest about that. So, negatives. Let's start with the negatives because they're a little bit easier. One of the negatives that I did have, that I did point out, was about the electric awning. When we first picked it up, I noticed that with the electric awning, what we had to do was we had to almost hold the door open because it's on the gas strut, and we had to press the button inside, and I had to just make sure that the awning came out and was over the top of that because I didn't want it to foul on the actual door. So that was fed back, and it's one of those. I think they might have changed the switch now, or they've moved the switch. They've done something. They have taken that feedback on, which is absolutely testament to what is going on with Car Bay and Coachman, with actually giving information from people who are using it and actually acting on that information to make the experience better for the end user. So that was one of the things. On a serious note, one of the other things is, unfortunately, this is 3.5 ton, which means I can actually drive it. However, with that said, without having an argument, I have not driven this motorhome. I have not been allowed to drive this motorhome. As soon as the keys were picked up and it was driven off, and I got told how lovely a drive it was, and I think if you look back at some of our videos, I even put how quiet it was. I actually feel refreshed when I get to a campsite, which is a strange thing to say, but because there is no rattling, bumping, banging to the degrees that we've had it before, it is actually a refreshing drive, and I really enjoy travelling in this. It is like being in a car, but I know that Karina will probably mention that as one of the positives as well. So that has been a negative. Lack of keys. I've not been able to drive it to actually give it a go. However, that said, joking aside, the thing for me is that I have got the ability to drive it. If anything was to happen, if we'd have got ill when we were out camping, or if anything would have happened, then I could have jumped in and we could have actually taken it to where we needed to be to get sorted out or to move on, or every eventuality covered. The other thing that I've loved about this, going from negatives back to a positive, because it's just popping into my head. This is why I don't get to talk, because things just pop into my head. I'm the creative one. The garage has been absolutely fantastic. Having the power cables in there so I can sit, so I can actually do editing outside on the table that we've got. Having the doors open. The slight cut off at the bottom, which makes the Sportivo for me look sporty at the back. What I mean is this. The actual cut off at the bottom of the door. I did wonder if that would actually hinder getting into the garage with the bikes, but it hasn't. And I like it because it does give it that sporty look at the back, and I love the back end of this one as well. So it does look actually sporty for a motorhome, which I think is quite a hard thing to achieve really, but yeah, that's another thing that I like. The workstation inside has been absolutely fantastic. I've sat, I've edited, I've used my computer. I appreciate not everybody wants to sit and work when they go away. However, unfortunately, what we do, it's always work. Everywhere we go, we are working in one capacity or another. So to be able to sit down, have the laptop out, have the table, so I'm sitting, I'm actually looking out of the front window whilst I've actually got my computer set up on the bench seat. Everything is there to hand. The Wi-Fi system, everything else that's gone along with it has absolutely been superb, so I'm really happy with that. The other thing that I've got to mention that I use a lot, Karina doesn't really use it a great deal, is the Mercedes Me app. That has, for me, been a bit of a game changer, really. Not massively in respect of what we do on a daily basis, but even when we go to use the facilities and go shower when we're at sites, because I've always got my phone, I can leave Karina with the keys, she can go off to her shower, I can go off to my shower, I can come back, I can unlock the motorhome with the app, so we've got 2 sets of keys, theoretically, whilst we're out and about as well, which sounds a little bit of a trivial thing, but for me, I've found it really, really useful. But also the geo-fencing to be able to set parameters of where the actual motorhome is, so it gives me alerts when they're there. The location finder, all the bits and pieces about the Mercedes Me app, I've been really, really impressed with. And the software updates that have been done whilst we've been travelling. So for me, in a nutshell, I've absolutely loved my time with this motorhome, and I am a little bit sad to see it go back. However, that is what we signed up for, so unfortunately it'll go back, but hopefully you've enjoyed the content, and what I'll do now is I'll hand you back over to Karina.
Thank you, Jules. So there we go, that's Jules's insight. Now, what's gone wrong? The only thing we had was when we were in Sweden, we had a warning come up to say there was a fault with the AdBlue system. It turned out it wasn't a fault as such, it's just that the AdBlue had got low and what was in there had actually crystallised. So once we put fresh AdBlue in, that fault cleared and we continued on our trip. So it was no big drama, it was just an AdBlue. So AdBlue has been a thing that it does seem to enjoy drinking. We had that before with our Fiat-based motorhomes. But other than that, that is externally the only thing that we had was an AdBlue warning. Internally, there has been one fault inside, and that's within our 6 months that we've had it. And I really am nitpicking because we haven't really had anything go wrong. This plastic plug here, the plug over a screw, you can see it's just jutting out there. After bouncy travels, that pops out, and then I have to push it back in. Now, I'm not joking when I say that is literally the only thing that I've had go wrong, and it's not really even a gone wrong thing, it's just a plug thing that pops out that I noticed. Other than that, nothing has broken, nothing's stopped working. The only other thing, so these cupboards, when you press them, you just press and they open up. Now, on this one, when we picked it up from Coachman, so this has been from the start, and I think this is obviously when it's been manufactured, if I press it there, where the others does, it doesn't open. I just have to press it there. So that just needs a slight adjustment. And that is something that obviously you would just literally be able to get your dealer or yourself to adjust. So that isn't exactly the biggest fault of the year. And then you can see when I try and push it closed, I just have to do it a bit higher. So that and that are the only 2 things that have gone wrong on the Sportivo in 6 months. Now, I appreciate not everybody has an experience like that. You pick up a motorhome, some of them do have a number of faults and snagging, but that's what we've had on that. So there we go. That has been our 6-month test, a proper long-term test. We've done a lot of miles, we've been to a lot of places. If you watch the videos, you'll have seen all that. What would I like to see on the Sportivo? Well, to be fair, I'd fit an aircon unit for me, just because I do like the ability to have that nice, cold, fresh air when I am abroad and reducing humidity. I thought whether this would need air suspension. To be honest, again, I don't really think the Mercedes needs air suspension on this particular size of motorhome. If you can afford it, it's a great luxury. Equally self-levelling, it would be nice, and again, if you've got an additional £6,000 or £7,000, self-levelling is maybe something to add. But Jules and I may do with the proper Yorkshire version. Our Malenko levelling ramps, yes. If we can do it in Yorkshire on the cheap, we will. So the Malenko ramps. But that's it really. Sportivo, Coachman Sportivo, an excellent, excellent two-berth Mercedes-based motorhome, priced £114,000. Although when I say priced at that, what I'd say is if you're looking to get one, along with any motorhome, do negotiate hard when you go to the dealerships. There's plenty of motorhome stock about at the moment. So there we go. Hopefully Jules and I shall be picking up our new Coachman motorhome next week, and we'll be firing out on our first trips with that motorhome. And I've got some questions about this next one as well, because it is certainly a bit different to what I'm used to. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.